Welcome to the Joanne Avison podcast. Today we're going to talk about the power of listening. It's a very important feature and one of the more useful things that comes out of learning about the science of fascia and the difference that it makes to all of us. Have you ever stopped to think about the incredible wisdom that lies within your body? It's a powerful resource that constantly communicates with you, trying to guide you towards optimum health and well-being. And that's from the subtlest of whispers to the loudest of screams when we're obviously in pain. But your body is always sending you signals. So we're not just talking about the listening that you do with your ears. We're talking about maybe it's time to begin listening in new ways, especially given what we know about the fascia, which is basically the name of the tissue that we form in. So think about this. We've all been there, ignoring that lingering fatigue, that feeling, pushing through stress, or brushing off physical discomfort and pretending that you can deal with it later. That's fine occasionally. But what happens when and if we constantly overlook these signals? In fact, we risk burnout, tiredness, and eventually the cumulative effect of chronic health issues, and a life that gradually finds its way out of balance as this accumulates over time. And the consequences can be severe, and it's only when we're forced to stop and take notice that we realise just how much we may have been ignoring our bodies. Sometimes we even think we're invincible and we can just keep going, but trust me, your body will eventually force you to listen to it. And how do I know that? Well, when you're told we're wired to respond to external stimuli, or you must be productive and prioritise your to-do lists, or meeting deadlines and eating right and doing the right thing when you're bringing up your children, fulfilling your work criteria, managing your family, they're more important than our own internal rhythms. And we override them to meet those external requirements. We're listening, but we're listening to outside influences. And often that can be at the expense of listening to the inside influences that our own personal, unique fascial system is communicating to us. It's actually working to sustain us and doing its best with what it has and whatever attention that we do give it, 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. It holds our sixth sense of proprioception, which means it has an integrated intelligence and awareness of where we are in space and the speed at which we move through it. Sometimes we're sitting still for hours and hours on end. We're not moving, but we feel as if we're moving through the internet space at our desks all day at super high speeds, moving from one program to another, one task to another, one email to another. And that's actually at odds completely with our body's needs, our natural ability to keep up. But if you think about it, there's a certain dissonance between the speed at which you're roaming around the world in communication with people and the stillness with which you're sitting at your desk and only your hands and your eyes are doing the moving. So what that leads to is that we can be so focused on achieving our goals that we actually forget to tune into the whispers of our bodies. And my work is dedicated to turning the practitioners I teach and the people that I work with into what I call fascia whisperers. Sometimes we're pushing ourselves to reach goals as if we're turning the engine on and forgetting that it's actually already on. And all that we're doing is extra unnecessary, pushing ourselves through these signals that tell us the engine's running and it just needs a certain kind of attention. And what we're doing is literally burning out the spark plugs. And that means our sparkle goes. The light-hearted element of being in Earth School is lost to the heavy-hearted pushing to keep up with what we think we have to do to be here. And then we're left wondering why we ended up in this state, because something's got to give. The truth is, it's not necessarily just about getting more rest or eating better, although that can be part of it. There's something more subtle, and it's about honouring the subtle language of our bodies and respecting the limitations of what we're doing. Tuning in to those signals is literally listening to their listening, because they're listening out for us from the inside out, and it's us tuning into them from our kind of outside in. We take our attention from the outside and send it in. And maybe we need to just change our tune rather than simply forcing our bodies to listen to our pushing and moving forward to reach more productivity goals. We live in a world that glorifies productivity and busyness to buy us the freedom to not to have to be productive and busy. That's like a donkey with a carrot dangling in front of it. Well, it constantly walks towards the carrot it's never going to reach, because, as we know, it's actually hanging from the donkey's own head, if only the donkey knew. I'm not saying we're donkeys, but sometimes we miss the sheer level of wisdom and intelligence and antennae that our body is sending around, and we're giving it a signal that there's nothing going on. But on the inside, we're racing to keep up with all that's going on. And that dissonance can in itself be something that we can change just by flipping the script. What if we could do that? What if we started listening to that intuition, you know, the one that tells us to slow down or take a break or press pause or get up and have a little walk around in a circle and get our energy moving physically, not just what's happening within what we're focused on. And by pausing in present time, just for a few moments, we're listening in to ourselves instead of the list. Listening, listen in, instead of listing more things to do on our inbox and more things to do on our productivity list. Because there's consequences to ignoring our bodies. Those consequences can be dire, but the rewards of tuning in are boundless. Present time, now, is enormous. It's like an elixir when you take a moment to sip it. Our bodies are actually communicating with us in so many ways. Micro moments of awareness that can bring us joy just as easily as anxiety, if only we let them. And sometimes it's a gentle nudge, other times it's a loud scream because something actually hurts, and it forces us to take our attention away from what's outside and bring it to what's inside, because the message is always there. And by tuning into these signals, we can sometimes identify new solutions to a problem, or pause and listen long enough to hear another possibility that might be a better one. So, for example, have you ever experienced a sudden onset of anxiety or fear in response to a certain situation? Something comes up on your computer that you're worrying about. That's your body trying to tell you something. It's actually warning you of a potential danger or an uncertainty or something that needs your attention. Perhaps you felt a lingering sense of fatigue that it just won't go away, even if you've had coffee and another coffee and just another quick coffee. That is your body screaming for you to take your attention inward and take a rest from that relentless pace that modern life offers us. It's a moment to perhaps ask, oh, is this worth it? Because the more we listen to our bodies, the more we realize how interconnected everything is. And fascia really is the living interface between cells and between organs and between muscles and between the skin and the bones, the outside of us and the very inside of us. And it communicates how forces do or don't move through us, as well as really subtle signals, even faster than our nervous system. So it's not just about, a feeling. It's a kind of a micro sense that responds to us in super subtle ways. And research now suggests more and more that a physical symptom can sometimes be the manifestation of an emotional or a spiritual issue, just as an emotional or a spiritual upset can show up physically as a reaction in the body or an outcome of emotion or worry. And by paying attention to these signals, by pressing pause, by taking a breath and just spending a little bit of time with these signals, sometimes we can just take a moment to find the ground, perhaps get up and move around a little bit, roll our shoulders, and just get present to whatever that feeling is, rather than just trying to skip over it and fold it up and push it out of the way to get to the next thing. By paying attention to these signals, these micro signals, sometimes just by pausing, just by moving around, just by moving the energy, we can start to address the root causes of the problems rather than just treating the surface level symptoms. Because sometimes by learning our own body language, we can be deeply rewarded by a body that knows we're listening. We get better at translating what it's saying to us. And what happens is we start to relax because the body knows we're listening. Something quite extraordinary happens. And I know this from experience. One of my most transformative times in my life was when I started listening to my body's signals, which was kind of forced on me by a very difficult diagnosis. I was going through a long period of intense stress and anxiety, and my body was screaming for attention. I was stressed, I was anxious, I just thought more is better, and I just spent hours and hours and hours working harder and harder and harder at not listening. And after the diagnosis and the surgery, I woke up to the need to start taking little breaks, to go for little walks, 12-minute walks, just to listen to my body and say, hey, I'm listening to you. What do you want to do? It might want to do breathing. It might want to do meditation. My body wisdom might give me a little picture of fresh air and a robin or some birds in the garden, and I would just go out and sit in the garden with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and just smell the roses. And as my body got used to the fact that I would do this for it, and I started introducing micro movements to my practice and micro meditations, just 7 minutes, I learned to better honor my intuition. And that's when the magic really started happening. It felt like a really radical shift, and it changed everything. I went from feeling drained and disconnected and victim of the diagnosis to feeling much more grounded, much more centered, and much more in tune with my body. And my body started to heal. I found myself listening to me and listening to others with much more care. It was as if I had more time because I'd gone deeper into the moments. It allowed me to go from racing around the hamster wheel to a place of stillness where I swear to goodness, single moments seemed to get fatter. And it gave me that extra awareness to choose the next best thing rather than feel like the victim of whatever happened next. I don't know if that makes sense, but something magical certainly happened when I gave more attention to micro movement, to micro pauses, to moment listening in instead of listening out, listening instead of listing more things. So the power of your body and listening to it is truly profound. It's not just about physical health. For me, it's about connecting with your inner self, your intuition, and your highest wisdom. And when we listen to our bodies, we can start to uncover our deepest desires and our greatest fears and our true potential. So why does tuning into our bodies really matter? Well, I think it's because it allows us to live a life that's authentic and meaningful and more fulfilling. Because before anything happens, we know we've listened. We've weighed up the positives and the negatives. We've allowed for ideas to come in, and I always think of them as butterflies coming in and landing. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't even thought of that. And somehow it's more fulfilling, and it matters because it enables us to take care of ourselves, to prioritize our well-being, and to make conscious choices that align with our values. I think taking care of ourselves first actually gives us the power to take care of others. And in the spiritual teachings that I am devoted to, taking care of yourself first is a requirement so that you can give freely of your overflow. When I was sick, I was running away with my reserve. I was giving it all away. I was keep starting the engine that was already running very low. And of course, I was just wearing out the spark plugs that were already worn out. And the spark kind of went, can't do this anymore. So for me, it's mattered because it's the key to unlocking our full potential, to living a life that's truly our own and spiritually and emotionally and mentally and physically congruent with who we are. So I'm going to be doing some podcasts about listening, and I'm going to be doing some podcasts about space-time, because fascia is the tissue of space-time in our body. It's proprioceptively aware of where we are in space, in time. And if we can take the time to tune into our body's wisdom, I promise you, it's a game changer. It's a radical act of self-love, of self-care, and of self-awareness. So I'm going to invite you to take the challenge with me, because I'm going to challenge myself to do it even more, and start listening to your body's signals and see what it's truly trying to tell you. Because in my world, the living body architecture of the fascial matrix is the interface between our high selves and its communication with our basic selves. And that means it allows our conscious thinking minds to become responsive to our inner body wisdom, rather than trying to dominate it, because we think we need to finish and we think that we've got to get that list done. When in fact, when we let that thinking turn into listening, we can hear our basic self say, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need to move, I need to drink. Just need a glass of water. I just need a pause. I just need a coffee, but could we enjoy it? Whatever that is for you. And then in that gap, our high self can perhaps be seen or heard with a new idea. So thanks for watching or listening, whichever you're doing. And if you've had any experiences where your body's wisdom has guided you towards a deeper understanding or a new idea or a possibility that you don't even know where it came from, please share in the comments below. We love getting your comments and we always answer them. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that subscribe button because what will happen is you'll be first to know about some of the future work that we've got coming through. And we're doing a whole beautiful piece about listening and space-time in the body, which is coming up soon. So if you don't know what the fascia matrix is, you can check it out in my other videos. It's a fascinating tissue, and somehow it unites our health and our self-awareness. And it makes such a difference. So here's to turning everyone into fascia whisperers. And I can't wait to hear your experience of that. Take care. God bless, and have fun.